In the garden of paradise, beneath the tree of knowledge, bloomed a rose bush. Here in the first rose a bird was born. His flight was like the flashing of light. His plumage was beauteous and his song ravishing. But when Eve plucked the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, when she and Adam were driven from paradise, there fell the flaming sword of the cherub, a spark into the nest of the bird, which blazed up forthwith. The bird perished in the flames, but from the red egg in the nest there fluttered aloft a new one, the one solitary phoenix bird. The fable tells us that he dwells in Arabia, and that every year he burns himself to death in his nest, but each time a new phoenix, the only one in the world, rises up from the red egg. The bird flutters around us, swift as light, beauteous in color, charming in song. When a mother sits by her infant's cradle, he stands on the pillow and with his wings forms a glory around the infant's head. He flies through the chamber of content and brings sunshine into it, and the violets on the humble table smell doubly sweet. But the phoenix is not the bird of Arabia alone. He wings his way in the glimmer of the northern lights over the plains of Lapland and hops among the yellow flowers in the short Greenland summer. Beneath the copper mountains of Fablin and England's coal mines he flies in the shape of a dusty moth over the hymn book that rests on the knees of the pious miner. On a lotus leaf he floats down the sacred waters of the Ganges, and in the eyes of the Hindu maid gleams bright when she beholds him. The phoenix bird, dost thou not know him? The bird of paradise, the holy swan of song. On the car of Thespis he sat in the guise of a chattering raven and flapped his black wings. Smeared with the lees of wine over the surrounding harp of Iceland swept the swan's red beak. On Shakespeare's shoulder he sat in the guise of Odin's raven and whispered in the poet's ear, "Immortality." And at the minstrel's feast he fluttered through the halls of Wartburg. The phoenix bird, dost thou not know him? He sang to thee Marseillaise, and thou kissedst the pen that fell from his wing. He came in the radiance of paradise, and perchance thou didst turn away from him towards the sparrow who sat with tinsel on his wing. The bird of paradise, renewed each century, born in flame, ending in flame, thy picture in a golden frame hangs on the halls of the rich, and thou often fliest around the world, lonely and disregarded, a myth, the phoenix of Arabia. In paradise, when thou wert born in the first rose, beneath the tree of knowledge, thou receivest a kiss, and thy right name was given thee. Thy name, poetry. Okay, roll in the intro. The Phoenix Bird by Hans Christian Andersen. Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Pathfinder 2nd Edition and the lore that surrounds them.
Hello there, creatures. That's the actual way to pronounce that, in case you didn't know. Welcome to Encounter This. Of course, we have a very exciting episode today, covering a rather significant creature, I believe. And myself, I'm very excited. I am very excited. I, of course, am Freeman Suzuka Easton. And I don't know if I said that right or not, but and
I think you did.
And James, Ace Attorney Kid, will be guiding us through the phonics, I believe
Phonics.
it's called. The phonics. Oh, that thing I was hooked on. Yeah, of course, it's the Phoenix. If any of you are laughing at that poor attempt at being funny, welcome to the club. If you want to follow along, Bestiary number 1, page 261. And James, tell us why this episode is special, besides the fact that it is a very legendary creature.
Yeah, well, mostly because this is a Patreon request from our good buddy Povo over on the Discord. So big thank you to them for joining at the $10 tier and requesting the Phoenix.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been calling you Povo. I will change that from now on.
I was too. Yeah. So it's always helpful to get a pronunciation guide with these.
Yep. Yes, thank you very much. This is very exciting. This is Pavo requested a couple creatures, or gave us a few options, I should say, and one of which I am definitely covering down the line anyway, because it seems really fun. So I don't know when we'll get to that exactly. We have a few other things that need to be covered before then, but it's definitely in the wings.
That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Well, tell us about this creature. Yeah. What's the deal? It's gonna be a long one, isn't it?
it could be. We'll see how fast I can push through this. As always, my goal is to keep these under an hour. So,
and as always, my goal is to interrupt you as you go.
All right. Starting off with the Pathfinder lore, there is more than we have seen in recent creatures, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we start off with the appearance. So if you're watching on YouTube, it looks something like this. Never figure out which shoulder that's over. It is a primordial bird made of heat and fire. So it really looks exactly the way you think it looks. Everybody's seen a phoenix in pop culture, I'm sure. So the curious thing about this image to me was that fire, the lighter it is, so white, blue, is always hotter than the darker colors.
Mm-hmm.
So in this image in particular, it looks like it's concentrated in its tail and its wingtips. So I'm wondering if that's just a product of the illustration, or if that's actually just how this bird works, is that there's more fire in its tail and its wings.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Fire does effectively change color the hotter it gets, sort of, or maybe, I don't really know.
Yeah, the hotter it gets, meaning it's burning cleaner.
Okay. And that's when it becomes blue, I suppose. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Blue and then white is the hottest. I believe it's been a long time.
Okay. It's at least a nice little touch of detail.
Yeah. So in 2E, they are highly intelligent, compassionate, and, as I'm sure you're all aware, best known for its ability to resurrect itself from its own ashes.
Yes.
They also are known in Golarion for their healing abilities, and they absolutely detest suffering, but they are petty in certain circumstances, and they're willing to deny healing to the most foul and irredeemable of creatures.
Okay.
Yeah. So they live in the most inhospitable regions of the desert, and they tend to prefer the company of metallic dragons. It didn't specify what type, but through a little bit of research, I was able to figure out that brass in 2E, as like in D&D 5E, are the ones that tend to live in arid climates. So probably most likely brass dragons.
Cool. I wonder how this might, this probably won't change per se with the upcoming Pathfinder 2nd edition remaster. But they are going away from the chromatic and the metallic dragons and introducing different types. Although anything that's current still works in the game functionally and mechanically. So I'd be curious if they come up with another connection to a dragon with these creatures in the future.
It'll probably just be kind dragons who live in arid climates. It's
fair enough.
Pretty easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're neighbors, metallic dragons and phoenixes can forge a lifelong friendship. Like, they become essentially best friends, and they share news and info and other hot goss from around Golarion, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's
you fun. Don't often find two semi-mythic creatures who just become besties.
Unless you're watching Encounter This, of course.
That too, yeah. They can go evil too, which I thought was an interesting touch. So it still retains its appetite for information, but instead of like bartering for it, it will just straight up attack universities and libraries for their books. It will then burn those establishments to the ground so that it can keep all of the information that it had for itself.
That's hilarious. How does a phoenix read a book exactly if they're just made of fire? That's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah.
You're like, I just imagine them holding like a library hostage. Like walk up, like, all right, I'm gonna burn this down unless you give all of these books to these minions that I brought. Put them in the carts, and then everything comes out into the carts, and he burns it down anyway, and then they all march out into the desert.
Yeah, that is an interesting question because, as we'll see when we hit the mechanics section, all of their attacks do additional fire damage. So it would be very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's funny.
But as little as that is it for the Phoenix itself lore in 2E.
Okay.
The 1E Phoenix is semi-impossible to find a good image of. This is the best I got, and it sucks.
It's pretty well. It's very low pixels, isn't it? It's very low resolution on that.
So the Phoenix image in the 1E bestiary is actually burned into another picture. So somebody had to pull this out and crop it. And that's all annoying. The tools I normally have at my disposal did not work. So this is what brutal. We have.
All right.
But other than that, it's the same lore as 1E.
Yeah.
There are a few other like Phoenix adjacent things in 2E I thought we'd probably just touch upon. Mm-hmm. The first is the sorcery bloodline, whose innate spell is something called Rejuvenating Flames.
Oh, yeah.
This is a 15-foot cone that heals and burns, restores 1d4 to allies and a +1 to their fortitude save for 1 minute, and does 1d4 fire to enemies' basic reflex save. Cancels it out.
Yeah. Spoiler, 3, 2, 1. I believe the sorcery bloodline for the sorcerers is for phoenixes is a reward from an AP. And not actually, it's not actually normally accessed. And I believe it comes from the Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, so you can get it like rewarded to you at a certain point. Don't quote me on that though.
It is correct. Yes, they are granted to players who finish Fist of the Ruby Phoenix.
Yeah, which is a little bit odd because that's a AP that goes to 20. So I know you can get like 2 bloodlines going if you take the right feats, but yeah, it's a bit of an odd one to spring at the end of level 20 finishing adventure. But I would go ahead and just give access, friends.
Yeah, you might as well. There's also an item called the Phoenix Necklace, which features heavily in Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. It is an artifact and a worn necklace. I really want to play this AP, so I did not go into any further detail.
Okay.
As always, links will be on our website if you feel like going into it.
That's fair. We could at least maybe say that an artifact is a magic item that cannot be crafted by normal means, and it also can't be damaged by normal means. And they're always rare and unique.
I think they're individual too. Or I guess that's what unique means.
Rare or unique, I should say. If they're unique, they are individual. If they're rare, then there might be multiple. In this case, it is a rare item.
Okay. Next up is the Phoenix Flask. This glows red and is strongly spiced, and it gives you Phoenix wings. And for 1 minute, you get a fly speed of 40. Every time you fly in a round, including the hover action, you shed feathers. Feathers fall in a 10-foot emanation at the end of your movement and deal 3d4 fire damage to everybody below you.
That's crazy.
DC 29 basic reflex.
Is that also from Fist of the Ruby Phoenix?
I think so. I didn't look for that one specifically, but
sure.
They're all linked, so we can pull that up real quick.
Yeah. It looks like it is, yes. The necklace, by the way, is a level 20 item, so it's pretty big.
This is from Secrets of Magic.
Oh, see, it's from Secrets of Magic. Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. And that's a level 12 item consumable. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a magical potion. That's neat. I like that.
Yeah. The last one is called the Phoenix Cinder. It is an item level 16. I tried to summarize this like 4 different times, and it's just not possible. It is essentially like a Pathfinder back to tank.
Okay.
That just slowly turns you into a phoenix. It is batshit crazy.
Really?
Listeners, just read the page because it is way too complicated. There's like, here's what happens after a week. Here's what happens after a month. Here's what happens after 6 months. And it's like, it like you can just go in for a period of time and you come out with different things. It is wild. And at one point you get the ability to just explode and come back anytime you want, essentially. Like,
wild. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's super fun.
There is a sidebar here called Servants of Sarenrae. It basically summarizes to they are not denizens of the outer plane, and they are long associates of Sarenrae. Many phoenixes take up Sarenrae as their patron because they believe in her mission of redemption.
Very neat. Very neat.
Yeah. And that's it for the Pathfinder lore. So we will slip into mythology and folklore. Okay. This is where it's going to get a little weird, I think. There's not a clear origin of the creature, to the point where it kind of goes back and forth a couple of times. But we'll start with the etymology. The word is from Latin by way of phoenix. First from Mycenaean Greek, poenike, meaning griffin or palm tree. We don't know which.
Okay.
And it appears to have the same root as the word Phoenician, as in the Phoenician people.
Right.
Which we think translates to those who work with red dyes.
Oh, interesting.
So phoenix could mean Phoenician bird or purplish red bird. We're not sure.
Etymology is the best.
Oh, yeah. Okay, continuing on with Greek. The earliest clear mention of the phoenix is from a fragment of the Precepts of Chiron, which is a didactic poem attributed to Hesiod, friend of the show.
Classic.
In which the centaur Chiron tells this particular tale to young Achilles.
Okay.
Chattering Crow lives 9 generations of aged men, but a stag's life is 4 times a crow's. And a raven's life makes 3 stags old, and while the phoenix outlives 9 ravens, we, the rich-haired nymphs, daughters of Zeus, the Aegeus holder, outlive 10 phoenixes.
All right, that's quite the analogy.
Yeah, so just bragging about how long centaurs live is realistically what that means. There is funny. A theoretical math there, but I wouldn't bother. We will have the Precepts of Chiron, like everything that's been translated, linked. There's a website I've been using lately for like Greek and Roman history called theoi.com.
You sent that to me, yeah.
Up next is we got a brief cameo from Pliny the Elder. They wrote that a phoenix appears at the end of each great year. So to narrow down what a great year means took me a long time, because
you went down a wiki hole, didn't you?
I didn't have a choice. I was like, well, how long's a great year? I just assumed it was like, a couple of years. In this context, it appears to be 72 years. I think the reason that it's 72 years is because that's what, like the Earth's ellipses around, that's the sun's ellipses around the universe or our galaxy. But that is just absolutely a guess. There is no information to support that or why this would be 72 years or why it would be considered a great year. Because at other periods of time, it was 50 years, it was 20 years, it was 10 years, it was 15 years. Like the concept of a great year changes depending on who's telling you about a great year.
Okay.
So it's very, It's not a useful measurement.
Very, very flexible measurement. Yeah.
Yeah. So according to all my research, Pliny was 72 years. So at the end of every 72 years, a phoenix appears.
All right then.
Okay.
Thanks, Pliny.
So now we're gonna shift over to Egypt, where it's theoretically from. But you'll see why this is circular.
Much Egyptian stuff, have we?
I mean, we've covered some. I think I've covered most of it. You know, Sphinx, Manticore, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So in the 5th century BC, and the Lamia, Herodotus wrote this account. So a Greek went to Egypt and then wrote this about them.
Okay.
So the Egyptians have also another sacred bird called the phoenix, which I myself have never seen, except in pictures. Indeed, it is a great rarity, even in Egypt, only coming there, according to the accounts of the people of Heliopolis, once in every 500 years when the old phoenix dies. Its size and appearance, if it is like the pictures, are as follows. The plumage is partly red, partly golden, while the general make and size are almost exactly that of the eagle. They tell us a story of what this bird does, which does not seem to me to be credible, that he comes all the way from Arabia and brings the parent bird, all plastered over with myrrh, to the temple of the sun, and there buries the body. In order to bring him, they say, he first forms a ball of myrrh as big as he finds that he can carry. Then he hollows out the ball, puts his parent inside, after which he covers the opening with fresh myrrh, and the ball is then exactly the same weight as at first. So he brings it to Egypt, plastered over, as I have said, and deposits this in the temple of the sun. Such is the story they tell of the doings of this bird.
You know, that started like an interesting tale. And then it got really boring at the end.
Fucking crazy.
What's with the obsession of myrrh? Like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure what the significance to the Egyptians that myrrh had, but it's got to be pretty high.
I feel like you could tell that that Herodotus got bored writing it. It's just like, you know what? It's a bunch of cyclical nonsense, but here you go.
Yeah, so we're not even technically into the cyclical part of this yet, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So the bird has been confirmed as the Bennu, or a great heron. It is a solar bird similar to the Greek phoenix. So he's not talking about the phoenix, he's talking about Bennu, which is an Egyptian deity of sorts.
Oh, okay.
Links to that in the description. So the sources for this other than Herodotus are very problematic, to the point where some Egyptians believe they adopted the concept of the phoenix from the Greek and then turned it into their deity, the Bennu, rather than the Greeks adopting it from the Egyptians, like we've seen in every other example of this happen.
Okay.
Egyptian sources have not yet been found to mention the death of any deity, much less the Bennu.
Oh. Okay.
So it is... In what we have found about it, it's said to have been self-created and then helped create the world after it. And Bennu is also known as he who came into being by himself, or Lord of Jubilees, which is specifically defined as a festival for Sed, or the celebration of the continual rule of the pharaoh. Did not know that's what Jubilee meant.
Yeah, me neither. Crazy.
So
I wonder what
most
jamboree
likely
means.
that's another episode. So the god Bennu is so there is a creature known as the Bennu heron, which would have originated from what is currently the United Arab Emirates. And this extinct heron was named after the Egyptian deity upon its discovery. Mm-hmm. But we think this is the bird they were talking about, the Bennu heron, which is named after the Bennu god, which is essentially the Egyptian version of the Greek phoenix.
Okay.
I don't know if you're following me at all, but here we go.
Yeah, I'm there ish.
This was a very, very difficult wave to surf.
I could tell.
But we do know the Bennu heron was about 2.2 meters or 6.6 feet tall. Its wingspan was 2.7 meters or 8.9 feet. And it belonged to a family called the Goliath heron family.
Oof, that's a big bird.
For modern day reference, is about the wingspan of a California condor and as tall as an emu. So for those of you who don't know, emus are considered rideable.
In fact, I think
that's how fucking big
they're
this
raced.
Bird was.
Like they're raced with jockeys.
Sometimes, yeah. There was also a point in an intercontinental Australian war where there was an emu cavalry.
Oh my God.
This is a photo from Emu Polo from Queensland.
Emu Polo. Oh my God.
Yep. Real sport
wild.
from the early 1900s.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember the one time I saw some emus when I was in Australia. And it was the same place that I saw a cassowary. I feel like I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but what a sight. The cassowary. Like, it's a dinosaur. It is a dinosaur in front of you. It is terrifying and amazing. So cool.
Yeah, emus aren't far off themselves. Emus are theoretically the closest living relative to the raptor.
Right.
Not the velociraptor. I think the velociraptor's closest living relative is a chicken, but
that adds up. Those things are vicious.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and they were like a foot and a half tall. Like, they're not big animals. Or they weren't big animals. Okay,
Spielberg
so because it is a... Yeah, exactly. So because it is a flaming bird, it exists in all cultures. Almost literally all cultures. So in Slavic, it is a firebird. I did research in 2E to see if there was a firebird or a thunderbird that this might tack onto. I didn't find a firebird. So here we are.
Okay.
This is from Slavic and Russian folklore. It is known as the firebird. It is magical and it is prophetic. It is also a large bird with majestic plumage that grows brightly like a bonfire that is just past the turbulent flame. So it's just kind of settled into itself. The feathers do not cease to glow when removed, and one feather can light a whole room. And they are usually depicted as a fire-colored falcon. The main source for these stories has been collected into a short story or a fairy tale called Tsarevich Ivan, the Firebird, and the Grey Wolf. So this was collected by Alexander Afanasyev in a book called Russian Fairy Tales, again linked in the description below. The general plot is the king had a tree that grew golden apples. Every night the firebird would come in and steal them. The king decided whoever caught the bird would get half his kingdom. His youngest son managed to catch it, but he only got a feather. A fairy tale ensues where he ends up riding a wolf, meets a woman called Helen, and eventually finds his early death. You know, basic Russian fairy tale.
Classic Russian tale.
Kind of is, yeah.
Strife, failure, and death.
I mean, he gets to ride a wolf.
Yeah, that's fun. That's definitely fun. I wonder if he played polo on the wolf.
I have my doubts, but maybe. And to bring it full circle, in Persian culture, there's something called a humabird, or a hamabird, and it is a bird of Iranian legends and fables. It says the bird never lands, living its entire life flying above the ground, and it has no legs. It consumes itself every few hundred years only to arise from its own ashes, and it has both male and female natures in a single body. It is to be considered a compassionate bird of fortune and is probably based on the lammergeiger or the bearded vulture, which is this guy here.
Oh, cool.
It is also almost certainly the inspiration for this guy here, which is the Pokemon Ho-Oh.
Yep. Tell me you got a picture of Moltres.
No, I actually didn't. I forgot about Moltres.
Oh.
I know.
You're such a big Pokemon fan. I just forget about Moltres.
Honestly, I don't really. I mean, I guess I do fuck with the legendary birds, but Moltres is easily my least favorite.
I know why you forgot Moltres, because you bothered playing any of the newer Pokemon games. You forgot about the originals.
In the last 2 months, I've run through red, yellow, gold, silver, ruby, and crystal.
Fine. I take back what I said then. It's still
this is what I do in the mornings while I'm waiting for my coffee to brew. Yeah. No, I'll own that. That's my bad. There is some other cultures
are missing out.
Well, I think I got enough in pop culture, but we'll see. Before we get there, though, there are some other cultures that do have Firebirds or Phoenix related entities that I didn't want to dig into because I felt like this was enough. 4 pages of lore is where I'm going to call it quits any day of the week.
That's fair.
So there's another one in Persian lore called the Simurgh. In Hindi culture, there's the Garuda and the Berunda.
Okay.
In Gregorian, there's the Paskunji. In Arabian, there's the Ankh. Turkic, there's the Konrul. Tibetan cultures, there's the Mi Bai Carmel.
Okay.
I ruined that, listeners. I'm sorry. And then in Chinese, there's a Fen Huang and the Vermilion Bird, which I also butchered. But links to all that stuff, if there is, in the show notes over on our website at encounterthis.ca.
I can tell you, right off the top of my head, I already know that the first one is actually already a creature in Pathfinder. And the Simurgh, yeah. And the Garuda is also in Pathfinder.
Yeah, I knew the Garuda was in there, but since the Garuda and the Behorunda are two sides of they're two versions of the same Firebird creature, I didn't want to leave it out.
Enough.
Yeah. So whoever covers that one can just reference this episode, and it's pretty much done.
Hopefully we remember.
Yeah. Which brings us to pop culture.
Oh boy, here we go.
Not only do we have Ho-Oh, we have the Phoenix from X-Men. This specifically is Rachel Summers, the one who actually goes by the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Phoenix that has taken over Marvel Girl. This is a picture of Jean Grey from the animated series, voiced by Catherine Disher, as the Dark Phoenix. We have Harry Potter. There's a bunch of shit in there. There's a book called The Order of the Phoenix. Apparently, that's also a group or a sect of beings. There's Fox, which is Dumbledore's Phoenix. There are apparently Phoenix feathers in a couple of in Harry and Voldemort's wands.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care. We have this gentleman right here, Phoenix Wright, the Ace Attorney.
Yep. That's
we have
a video game, right? Ace Attorney?
Yeah.
Or is it a... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're Nintendo games. They're essentially visual novels, but you play out the courtroom drama. It's very, very similar mechanics to the interrogation scenes in LA Noire, but it's done in a very Nintendo way. They're pretty fun. They're a little slow for me, but they're interesting.
Yeah.
Up next, we have this handsome devil right here. This is Simon Phoenix, portrayed by Wesley Snipes in 1993's Demolition Man.
I love Demolition Man.
Me too.
It is so funny. This is
the first thing I thought of when I was going to research the Phoenix. It wasn't the X-Men. It wasn't Phoenix Wright. It was Wesley Snipes playing Simon Phoenix.
I recently watched that film, and it holds up in a humorous way, and it's intentionally funny. It's not quite one of those like action films from the 90s that's accidentally funny now. It genuinely tries to be funny, and it cracks me up. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Whoever wrote that screenplay deserved an Oscar, I think. just for silly cleverness.
For sure. I want to say it was Shane Black, but I have
Oh, yeah.
nothing to back that up. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But he's great movie.
So
holds
funny.
up in all the wrong ways because I think it takes place in the far future of 1997 or something like that.
Or like 2005 or some shit.
2005 was Transformers the movie, but this might be that. But it's definitely well in the past now whenever this takes place, and it wasn't too far in the future for when it was filmed, so I love it. Or at least the start of it is in the far future of whatever, and then, spoilers, they get frozen in carbonite. Up next is the Phoenix spacecraft. So this landed on Mars on May 25th of 2008, and its entire purpose was to scout the history of water on the surface. So there's more articles linked to that in the bottom below. This is obviously not an image of it actually landing on the surface. This is a computer render. We do not have the technology to take photographs of shit landing on Mars when there's not other shit.
Yeah,
already
right.
landing
Matt
on
Damon
Mars.
was there on Ground Zero holding his iPhone up. That's where we got that picture.
Right. Okay.
Don't get swooped in by Big Pharma.
Matt Damon, half a potato and a pack of ketchup in his iPhone.
Exactly.
Okay. And for those of you real deep 90s nerds, there is this guy. So this is Phoenix Sazaku. This is the MacGuffin for the entire point of the anime Monster Rancher. The whole purpose of that anime is to find this creature so it can destroy a being known as the evil Lord Mu.
Okay.
Not a joke.
Man, Monster Rancher was I don't remember anything about it other than that when it came out I was obsessed with it, but I don't remember any details, so my obsession must not have lasted very long.
It's really
it's
really
with Card
interesting.
Captors.
Card Captors is awesome. Monster Rancher is fine. I managed to track down the complete series a little while ago, and it is a tough rewatch. But
back when
it's on
online chat rooms were a big thing, and they were turning into virtual spaces. On Chat was a big one that me and my friends were on, and my handle at the time was Suezo from Monster Rancher.
Oh, the big yellow eye thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's a good show. I don't think it's a great show. It's not Sakura Card Captors, which absolutely holds up to this day.
Does it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you guys can fucking at me about that. I will defend Card Captors till the day they know.
I remember
my
loving
coffee
it.
shut.
Yeah. I remember being so excited about it being like launching on the commercials and stuff. Card Captors premiere. Yeah.
It's I recently rewatched it when they threw it all on Netflix. It is great.
Sweet. Awesome.
Next on the list is this gentleman right here. This is Dave Farrell, who uses the stage name Phoenix and was at one point the bass player for a band called Linkin Park.
Okay. Sure.
There's also a bunch of other stuff. There's Cosa fan tutte, which is an opera by Mozart about and this is a direct quote, a faithful woman is difficult to find as a phoenix. So if you ever had any doubts that Mozart's a sexist, case closed. Because the title also directly just translates to women are like that. And I'm sure it was said like that too. Women are like that. Which is absolutely not true. A good woman is not as hard, or a faithful woman is not as hard to find as a mythical being. They exist. They're out there.
Strange fun fact I have about that musical, or opera, sorry, is that there's a really, really wonderful like comedy drama film called Cozy, from the 90s, that has Ben Mendelsohn in it, and like Toni Collette, and a couple other big names, Barry Otto, who's like a really famous Australian actor. So it's an Australian film, and it's about this guy who gets like a basic job at like a mental health facility and ends up trying to help the patients there put on the opera because one of them is obsessed with doing it. And it's a really like kind of like really heartwarming, but also very dramatic and like very sad film. And it's really, really cool. So that's, I know it's total random offshoot, but I highly recommend that film. It's really neat.
No, I love it. Tony Collette's a treasure. So
Yeah, Ben
absolutely
Mendelsohn
go
is
watch
so
that.
good too. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. There is a myriad of ships, including the 1972 Phoenix the 1872 Phoenix used in the otter fur trade. To other manufacturing companies, there's a bicycle company called Phoenix Company Ltd. From Shanghai. They make bikes. And then there's many, many more. There's products that include the Firebird name or iconography, like the Gibson Firebird or the Pontiac Firebird. More myriad. Like this list could go on forever. But the main things to take away here are the comparison to the 2E. So most seem to portray the Phoenix as a bird wreathed in fire. So we got that check. Almost all interpretations, it is able to bring itself back from the dead as long as its ashes still exist. They're usually helpful, if not benevolent. And they're almost always beings of immense power. So the comparison to cultural lore to the Pathfinder lore is pretty clear and straight up and down to me, which is great. I love that it just flows so easily. The only thing we don't touch upon in like the Egyptian and Greek lore is that they're best friends of brass dragons for
sure. Just for
could not have expected Hesiod to
regional geographic reasons. And the metallic dragons tend to be the good ones, quote unquote. And you said before the Phoenix tends to lean towards good as well. So I'm sure they have a little bit in common.
Yeah, for sure. But that will tuck us nicely into the mechanics.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited and interested in what the mechanics will hold.
Okay, hold on to your butts. CR 15, HP 300, self-resurrection, regeneration 20, deactivated by cold or evil.
Okay.
AC 36, size gargantuan, alignment neutral good, soon to be 0. Traits beast and fire.
Okay.
So recall, knowledge, beast is arcana or nature for 39. Unspecific is 37 and specific is 34.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that's already a little surprised that it's only level 15. However, I did pick up on the fact you were saying like they and them, and we're not saying it. And it, you know, it's not a singular, unique creature, obviously. I can only assume it's very rare, but I don't know. It's something kind of nice about it being, you know, not like this. It's not a god. That's it. It's not an otherworldly god. So which I think it's kind of interesting that it's a beast. You know, I like that. It's just this incredibly powerful magical beast. And I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I was
some of the other
for elemental.
Yeah.
But we did get fire trait tacked on there, so that's enough for me.
Yeah, the fire trait, as we've definitely discussed before, does usually specifically mean that it has a relationship to the elemental plane of fire. So it may not be an elemental itself, but it is very much connected to that plane.
Yeah. It has a perception of 27, a speed of 50, and a fly of 70. So it fast.
Oh, yeah.
It speaks and understands Orin, Celestial, Common, and Ignan. Its visions are listed as Dark Vision, Detect Magic, and See Invisibility.
Okay. Yeah.
Strength, Wisdom, and Charisma are all 6. Intelligence is +7. Dex is +7. And Con is +5.
Okay.
As far as skills go, it's got a 30 acrobatics, 27 athletics, 31 diplomacy, 27 intimidation, and 25 nature.
Okay.
Its
Yeah.
fortitude save is 27, reflex is 31, and will is 28, so it's fine. No resistances to speak of, but it is weak 10 to cold and evil, and it is just straight up immune to fire, as we would imagine with the fire trait.
Okay. Now I know they're also removing, because they're removing alignment, that will have a change on the evil side of things. As of right now, I almost wonder if we actually see an evil version of Phoenix. Does that flip? That would be a homebrew that you could do, giving it a weakness to good 10. But maybe that will or will not come into play, I guess, later on, when they kind of scrap alignment. And I know they're renaming like negative and positive energy damage, I should say, but I don't know if they're actually going to bother including a different equivalent for like good, evil, lawful, and chaos, at least not at the moment.
I don't know why they would. Like, I don't see a value in getting rid of it and then just renaming it. It's not. It's fine, but it's not like good or interesting,
Right. Yeah. Like I know, like, so the negative and positive are going to be void and vitality.
Void and vitality. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think lawful it's rumored it could become axiomatic or something like that. But
I mean, that's the same thing. That literally means the same thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
There's zero value to that rebranding. Yeah. Like I'm on board for a lot of the stuff they're doing, but a lot of it is very, very confusing to me.
Well, a lot of the changes are really about stepping away from the OGL. That's the thing, right? It's about stepping away from the same wording, but they don't necessarily want to change everything. They want to change some things. And they're doing some big ones too. But sometimes it's just about change that word so that it's more of our own. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, which is almost never a good thing. Proprietary solutions are what got us into this issue in the first place. So we'll see. I don't think they're renaming it.
I don't think they presume to own the new words either, though. That's kind of the beauty.
No, I don't think they do either. But there's no world in which Wizards of the Coast owns evocation magic.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure.
That's one of the big changes that I just straight up don't understand, because that the only thing you can own is proper nouns. So I guess if you want to distinguish, like, whatever, we'll talk about that more in a special bonus episode when that stuff starts to drop. I think.
We'll see. Yeah, we've very little information so far. So
and speculating never does anybody any good. So
certainly not.
Let's just continue on into the passives. Their first passive ability is Self-Resurrection, Healing, Necromancy, and Primal. When a phoenix dies, it returns to life 1d4 days later, as if a 7th level resurrection ritual. This only happens if there are remains to resurrect. Example, it's not disintegrated, or it is not in an area devoted to evil.
Okay.
It can only use this resurrection ability once per year.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So if it dies twice within a year, it's screwed. If it's disintegrated upon death, which is a very common one, screwed. Or if it dies in a place devoted to evil. Interesting. I wonder what that entails exactly. I guess that's GM discretion. But
probably a place that's been like not consecrated,
Deconsecrated? Is that a word? Can you say that?
Yeah, I think you can.
What's the antonym to consecrate?
I don't know. Deconsecrated would mean it was consecrated and now it is no longer.
Right.
That's why I chose not to use that.
Yeah.
But yes, basically that. Its next passive ability is called Shroud of Flame.
Sorry. I had to look it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shroud of Flame. It is an aura with the evocation, fire, and primal traits. It is a 20-foot aura with 46 fire or a basic reflex save. any adjacent creature that hits it with a melee or otherwise touches it is subjected to this. It's not if you're just in that aura.
Mm-hmm.
And it can activate or deactivate with a 1-action concentrate trait.
Okay, interesting. That is an interesting aura. Because it's got a 20-foot reach, but it really only affects you if you are if you hit it with a melee attack or otherwise touch it. Okay. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I get what it's going for, but it's an odd one. Like imagine if for somehow a PC managed to like achieve a 20-foot reach and melee attack it, you know, and then now they're subject to it. It's kind of a weird one, you know. But I guess it's certainly feasible. But yeah,
I think that's probably more for the like out of combat things.
Mm-hmm.
So like if this particular Phoenix decides it wants to help one of the PCs, it can just turn off the aura and they can get close to it.
Yeah.
And gargantuan beings have pretty close to a 20-foot reach, don't they?
Oh, hold on. No, I think we might have misinterpreted this. It deals 4d6 fire damage with a basic reflex save within 20 feet. Any creatures adjacent that hits with a melee attack or otherwise touches it takes 2d6 fire. So that is an addition. So it is 20. It is a 20-foot. You're taking 46 basic reflex, and then if you try to hit it, you're taking more. Yeah,
that makes way more sense.
Yeah, it does make more sense. And I love it actually. That's brutal.
Yeah,
playing the distance game on this one. I mean, you kind of have to. It's 70-foot flying speed. Jeez.
Yeah, that's not going to help you. It has a couple of melee attacks. The first is a single action beak, finesse, agile, fire, magical. 20-foot range, 30 on the first hit, 25 and 20 for the maps. Map again stands for multiple attack penalties. So if you use more than one action to attack, it suffers a -5. That stacks going down. Mm-hmm. It is 1d12 plus 9 piercing damage, and then 3d8 fire, and then 2d10 persistent fire.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Yep. Brutal is right.
The next is Talons, Finesse, Agile, Magical Fire, 20-foot reach again, same to hit. This one does 1d6 plus 6 piercing, same 3d8 fire, and 2d10 persistent fire.
I am a little bit confused by I see. Sorry. You've got your notes a little bit wrong here. You said the beak was agile, but it's not. The talons are. The multiple attack penalty kind of confused me there because it's a 30, 25, 20 for the beak, but it's actually a 30, 26 so on for the talons.
Oh yeah, that's right. I definitely
just a small error there. Yeah.
Copy and paste is a bitch, listeners.
Yeah. It honestly for anyone listening to like that, it's actually generally quite easy to remember in that if it's something's attacking with its mouth, it's almost never agile, but if it's attacking with its limbs, like a beast is almost always. So if it's a claw or a talon, probably agile. If it's a beak or a jaws attack or something like that, almost never.
Okay, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Moving on quickly from that mistake, it has one ranged attack. It is a single action flame jet.
Mm-hmm.
It has the fire trait and a 40-foot range in case you're on the edge of that aura. That is the same attack penalty, 30, 25, 20. This does 66 fire and 2d10 persistent, so it doesn't have the extra 3d8 because you're not getting up and close.
Yeah.
And then probably my favorite single action thing that we have ever covered.
Oh, okay.
This is called Flaming Strafe. It is evocation, fire, and primal. So it flies up to its speed, which, let me remind you, is 70 feet.
Yep.
It does 6d6 fire to each creature within 20 feet of each square that it passes through.
I mean, it's effectively just like moving its aura around, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a DC 37 basic reflex. And let me remind you, just in case you weren't clear, one action.
So as long as it just flies by, effectively, that aura is just carrying it around and it is messing your day up.
70-foot line that goes out to 20 feet on each side, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Now,
what?
It is worth mentioning, I think, that there is an action called Maneuver in Flight that is a baseline for this system. And it specifies that, I mean, you have to have a flying speed. Obviously, this creature does. And it specifies that you try a difficult maneuver while flying. And of course, that is basically determined by the GM. And it gives examples of like, what's required for like your proficiency for it. You're looking at rolling an acrobatics check. So if you're trained, it's like a steep ascent or descent. If you're expert, you can pull off a fly against the wind or hover midair kind of thing. But you need to be a master in order to reverse direction. So it would be really easy to make the mistake of like just letting this thing one action zip by, next action zip back the different direction, zip by, like do that 3 times in a row. You should not be doing that. It's dangerous enough, but like don't make that mistake. This creature should be subject to exactly that action. I mean,
it's also an action to take off and land, and that's an additional action as far as I can tell.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's, what was this? It's acrobatics is 30. I mean, it's probably safe to say that it could be a master at a level 15 creature. But
it's also a fucking bird. So I'd
spend the action,
call it a master.
Yeah. Spend the action and make the check in order to be fair with your players.
Absolutely. And make sure you're spending the action to get off the ground too, because that's not part of Flaming Strafe. Flaming Strafe is it flies up to its speed, and it is a single fly action to get off the ground.
Already doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. But you're not wrong. Really awesome. Like a really cool ability. Yeah. Just don't abuse it.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have a little bit of spell casting. It is just enough that I don't absolutely hate it.
Okay.
It is Primal Spell Lists, innate spellcaster, DC 39. It has the constant spells of 8th level Detect Magic, 6th level See Invisibility, which we saw in its visions.
Mm-hmm.
As far as cantrips go, it has the 8th level Light spell.
Sensible.
6th level spells, it has Restoration 3 times per day.
Okay.
7th level Dispel Magic at will.
Okay. That's
at will.
Pretty powerful. Yep.
8th level Continue Flame at will. Dispel Magic times 3 at 8th level. Flame Strike. Heal times 3 at 8th level. Remove Curse or Wall of Fire times 3.
Hell yeah. I'm here for it.
That's fine. Yeah. But that is a perfectly acceptable and thematic spell list, even though I hate that it has spells.
It's effectively just launching its fire everywhere and doing restorative magic. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they weren't all thematic, like if for whatever reason this had like chromatic orb or some shit, I would be livid. But Paizo's usually pretty good about giving you mechanical reasons why creatures have abilities like that. Like it needs spells for that 6th level See Invisibility. You know, it needs the restoration to bring itself back or whatever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's necessary, but they have decided that's the direction they're going to go in. So I won't get on them too much for it. But obviously, I wish it didn't have spells.
Yeah. What's really cool though about Flame Strike? I don't know if you looked at Flame Strike at all. It's basically a 10-foot radius, 40-foot tall cylinder at 120-foot range, and it's a basic reflex save. And it normally does 8d6 fire at spell level 5, but for every level higher, it's 2 more. So that's what, 14d6 that it's doing at 8th level. But it's basically a divine spell as well. So creatures in the area apply only half their usual fire resistance. And not only that, if a creature happens to be immune, they're not actually immune to that strike, but instead just create their saving throw as 1 degree of success better. So you can do fire damage to someone who is immune to fire damage with that spell. That's amazing.
Like a phoenix, for example.
Like a phoenix, yeah. It's just yeah, a phoenix can get hurt by their own shit. You know, it's crazy.
That is pretty bad shit.
Yeah.
But that's it for the mechanics. So let's just slip into something a little more comfortable here.
Okay.
Slip into the homebrew. So I've been giving this a lot of thought, like a lot of thought of how I would use a phoenix. And I cannot come up with a plot that's better than Monster Rancher. So I would just straight up steal that.
Yes.
Yeah. So a weapon, in this case, in the Monster Rancher case, it was Lord Moo, was made in a different time and became so powerful that they need a special power to stop it.
Okay.
You know, specifically in the case of Monster Rancher, it is the all-knowing eternal phoenix. So essentially a fetch quest with the phoenix being a flaming birdie MacGuffin. So, you know, you go on the quest, get the bird, fight the big bad evil guy, save the world. Like very simple, high stakes plot. And I honestly, the simplicity of it, I think is great.
Sure.
You don't know where to find the phoenix, so you just set out and you just try and do it, you know, just like most of those animes from that time, like Pokemon, Digimon. Like there's we got to stop it, so let's go do some shit. You know, we know we got to stop it.
Yeah,
we know. You know, some sage old person told us that we know how to do it. So now we got to go find out how to do it. And I think it's so clean and so concise, and it doesn't. You know, it doesn't get you to the phoenix any earlier. It doesn't make the enemy more powerful or less powerful. Like everything in your way is a minion.
Yeah, it's such a good, very loose exoskeleton for an adventure because it doesn't lock you into anything hyper thematic. You know, like you can just kind of like, what do they have to discover? How do they discover the things they need to along the way? And like you could just put anything that you come across that's inspiring in front of the players just to get that, you know, for them to get that information and to reach the goal. And that's like that sort of sense of freedom is really nice. You know, you don't
especially
you're not locked into like eldritch occultism stuff sometimes, you know, like you get, you know, you just experience the world.
Yeah. And every day is a travel day. You know, you get up, you pack up your gear, and you head further down the road, and you're one step closer to finding the phoenix or whatever. You could even theoretically call it the Order of the Phoenix.
Hey,
don't be transphobic.
Yeah, just don't be transphobic, and watch your emails for cease and desists.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
you'd be fine.
Probably not, but as long as you're not publishing it, I think you'll be fine.
I think you're all right. Yeah,
but I there's no doubt in my mind that you could write a better story at your table about finding a phoenix than that fucking book. For the record, that was the last Harry Potter book I read. I remember exactly 0 of it, and I have no interest in being corrected or educated on it. They're not good stories.
You'll never win them over with that or Tolkien or any other things.
Tolkien I respect.
Okay.
Yeah, Tolkien did his own thing, and I respect that. You know, at least he knocked out a really good book in The Hobbit.
Right.
The rest of them are kind of middling.
The
Silmarillion wasn't horrible, but you know, it was only one book. Lord of the Rings was what, 12?
It's 3.
Well, no, it's 3 omnibuses. I think there's 4 books in each of those 3 books.
Sure.
The way Lord of the Rings is currently published is it's published as an omnibus. It was not originally published that way. Those are collections. Crack your spines. Okay. I know that because I've read them several times.
You can say the same thing about Wheel of Time at the end of the day if you're just going by page count, because like That
No,
thing's
so
14
in the
books
table
long,
of context
and it's
of the Lord of the
forever.
Rings books, yeah, in the Lord of the Rings books, like if you crack open Two Towers in the table of contents, it should say book 1 or book 6 or whatever,
Oh,
and all this stuff.
I never noticed. I guess I never look at the table of contents. To be honest,
maybe I was wrong. I had the special edition ones that they published in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Before the movies, and those had books.
Okay.
I'm not willing to look it up on air, but back to shit that I don't hate. Do you have anything for the homebrew section here?
Not particularly, to be honest. I think it would be nice to just have a little more origin story lore, maybe, because that's something we come across a lot as origin story stuff, and this seems to be lacking. And I guess it makes sense that it would be difficult to write, or for anyone in the world to know, since it's a regenerative, self-resurrecting creature. But a hint at something would be nice. And there's a part of me that maybe would actually enjoy. I think I would enjoy the story sort of structure that you would go for. But to me, that also makes it a unique creature rather than a rare one. And something like it can still be level 15, but it also could be higher. And I dig that part of it. I feel like this if you're going to use this creature as a pivotal part of a story, it ought to have something unique about it, rather than it possibly be just one of a few. So I'm into the more unique side of approach with this, but beyond that, I'm happy with it. Yeah.
So for that one in particular, if you were going to throw like Phoenix herrings into it, I would probably just throw the elite template on your MacGuffin Phoenix and then call it a day.
Sure. Yeah. Easy enough.
Yeah. And then, maybe it's the only elite template, or it's like the Elder Phoenix, or Simon Phoenix, for example.
We finally found the pinnacle Phoenix. Yeah. Oh, we lowly players, we bow at your fiery feet. Tell us, what do we call you? Simon. Oh my God, I would die.
Don't forget to do your individual interpretations of Wesley Snipes' weird Demolition Man laugh. He's got the flamethrower out.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, I can't even.
Okay. No. Well, now that I broke Freeman a little bit, if you like this, you can find us on Patreon and help us make these shows. $5 a month will get you a handwritten thank you letter. $10 a month, you can suggest a creature, kind of like Povo did today. If you want to learn more about this creature, you can find the notes that we used to make these shows over at our website. You can just find that all at encounterthis.ca. All of our socials have been scrolling through the YouTube feed there down below, and they're in the description of both the video and the audio version, so you can hunt us down, like and subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. You check out our shop. We got cool Critty merch, unchartednorth.com/shop, where you can find all those links from our website. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out every Fridays. That's usually some like aggressively behind the scenes stuff, like stuff I don't share in the Discord, stuff we don't share other places. It just hangs out. And thanks so much for being here. We will see you again in 2 weeks with a creature that I cannot pronounce, so I cannot spoil it.
Can't wait.
See you later, creatures. Thanks again.
Until next time, creatures, thanks as always for listening to Encounter This.